I want to call the meeting to order. It looks like a full house. Thank you, everybody, for coming and welcome to a city council meeting tonight. So roll call.
Brooks,
Here.
Kushner, Lund, Bentley,
Here.
Holmberg.
Here. Okay, so item 331, city council minutes, November 8th.
Move to approve.
Brooks,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg.
Yes. City council 3-2, city council parks recreation joint meeting minutes, November 11th.
Move to approve.
Brooks,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg.
Yes. Okay. And adoption of agenda.
Move to adopt.
Brooks,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg.
Yes. Danielle, since Councilman Lund's going to be just a few minutes late, do you think we should put the, we already adopted Sky Haven next?
Yeah, you want to do the Sky Haven after the public hearing?
I do, because I want as many council members to hear the presentation as possible. So we'll give him a few more minutes. Is that fine?
Yeah, that's fine with me. As long as our guests who are here to speak don't have anything they need to rush out to.
Okay. It's just trying to be a courtesy to you that you get as many. Councilman Kushner will not make it tonight, but Councilman Lund is planning to be here. So, okay. So let's go on to item 6.1, public hearing on an ordinance rezoning property at 618 West Clark Street. Barb Carroll?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council. This is a property on the south side of West Clark Street at 618 West Clark. You have a couple maps in your packet of information. It's a white house on the south side. It's right at the southwest corner of West Clark and Oakmont Drive. Property is owned by Warrensburg Tires LLC, represented by Daniel Spees, and he's here this evening and can speak on behalf as the applicant. The property is approximately 1 acre in size, and Mr. Spees has applied to have the property rezoned from its existing R1 single family designation to an R2 1 and 2 family residence district. The property is adjacent to a couple different zoning districts. It has R1 on the east side and the south side, and then it has R4 on the north side, and it has R3 on the west side. And so the R2 would be a buffer between the R4 and the R3 and the R1. So there are several members of the public here this evening to speak on this. I believe we have summarized the public comment that was received prior to the meeting up until last week in your staff report. And additionally, we had 3 additional ones come in today. First, we had Rachel Bonner at 628 Oakmont Drive called this afternoon regarding information about the rezoning request and information on how to attend the meeting this evening. Another comment from Goldie Edwards at 607 Oakmont Drive called this afternoon and asked, or today, and asked if there were any building plans on file for the project. There are not at this time. And she stated that she thought Dan Spees' original intention was to build duplexes on Spring Ridge and single family houses on Oakmont. Did not indicate if she was for or against the rezoning. And a third comment received from James Capp at 706 Iron Horse Drive, called City Hall today regarding information, requesting general information about the rezoning and if it would affect his property. He did not state if he was for or against it. We believe his concern was he thought maybe it would rezone his land, and so we assured him it didn't affect his property in that way. The Planning and Zoning Commission considered the matter at their hearing and meeting last Monday night. After a discussion with the applicant and taking public comment, they voted to recommend approval. it was, they were at a quorum that evening, so it did pass at a 3-2 vote. Staff is recommended in favor of the ordinance. You have that recommendation in your packet, that it creates a buffer between the more intensive districts to the north and west, and is in keeping with the general development trend of the area, and it is consistent with the comprehensive city plan to have multifamily zoning in that, at that location. Be happy to answer any questions. This is just for a first reading this evening.
Correct. Okay. Then we have some folks that want to speak on this public hearing. If you would, come on forward. Please state your name and address so that we can document and then tell us what you want to tell us.
Okay, I'm Goldie Edwards, and I live at 607 Oakmont Drive.
Okay.
So whatever happens, this is what I'll be looking at my front door. I know Daniel, I taught him in high school. He built my house. I'm very pleased with the quality of his builds. I know the neighborhood quite well. I know the 3-bedroom duplexes that run on Spring Ridge. I know about the 2-bedroom duplexes that run on West Clark. For me personally, I don't object to the duplexes going down West Clark. I do object to duplexes being directly across from where my house is, because on Oakmont, it is houses. And I'm worried about the ability of parking. I don't think there's enough room for, excuse me. I don't think there's enough room for driveways. I have walked all of the property. I've kind of measured off 2-bedroom duplexes, 3-bedroom, and looked at that. I also we have a lot of traffic that is in the neighborhood to begin with. And we have people who park there for utilities, for mowing, etc. I don't believe that duplexes across from me would support that. I do think it would be a good idea to have the duplexes at the end and then houses across. And I want to know, excuse me, I want to know if it's possible to split the zoning where we could have duplexes at the end of the street facing West Clark and houses on Oakmont. I think it would be in the best interest of the neighbors. We have like a family community. That's what I wanted to say.
Well, thank you. Anybody else on this particular item?
You have a sign up sheet with people sign up.
Right. Go ahead, your name, please.
Yes, I'm Barbara Erickson, and I live at 613 Oakmont, which is just a couple houses down from Goldie.
Okay.
Again, I'll be coming out my front door, and those potential duplexes will be what I see. When I built my house almost 10 years ago, the area was zoned R1, and I had no reason to believe that it was ever going to be anything but R1. In fact, I didn't know that that was even possible. I thought that zoning was in place to protect people like me. I'm pushing 80. I'm hoping this is my last house. I don't want to move. But I want my house to retain the value that I think it has. I think if you drove down our street tonight would be a good time to do that. You would see that all of the houses are decorated for Christmas. All of the houses have trees and shrubs, and of course, in the summer they have flowers. People are living there. They plan mostly to stay there. They care about their property. If we have duplexes across the street, we're going to have driveways. There'll be nice driveways with nice duplexes, but that's what we'll have, driveways with a lot of cars. And that is not what I hoped for when I built my house. And it's definitely not what I planned. I didn't know that it was so easy to lose the value of my property. So I'm pretty upset about this plan. But I'm with Goldie. I'm good with having duplexes face Clark, but I think the part that faces Oakmont should be houses, and there's plenty of room for that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else on this particular item? Come on up, sir.
I'm Daniel Spees. I'm actually the applicant. Good to meet you all. Just kind of give you kind of a background of this property. Essentially what happened is I've developed probably, as you've heard a couple times, a bunch of houses in the area. And this house about a year ago came for sale, and I immediately called my real estate agent and purchased this house for the exact same reason that some of the people are not wanting it to go to R2, is to protect the value of my property, which I own 5 duplexes around the corner, and I'm planning on keeping those for my retirement. And so when I purchased this property, I immediately said, I just got to get it so I can control what's happening as we progress on. And so when I did that, I thought of value for homeowners. After the planning and zoning meeting last Monday, I've actually spoke with a homeowner about that's directly related. I haven't visited with Goldie, but I will after the meeting. That was directly related. He was at the planning and zone meeting, and I'm trying to work with him on come up with maybe some duplexes that appear like a single family look that will actually have that. My whole plan is to try to protect the value. I own property there as well. The deal is I bought this property. It's a fairly expensive piece of property. I didn't want another developer to buy it, and something happened behind me and adjacent to all my homeowners that was going to hurt our property, that was going to devalue. My anticipation is to own these personally, try to keep them immaculately kept. We put irrigation systems in all of our duplexes. We actually have a courtyard that we've designed kind of behind the existing duplexes to bring that up. I get it. Nobody wants development. You know, everybody wants development in their community, but they don't want it across the street. And I understand that entirely. So that's why I personally want to work with the people in the neighborhood to try to minimize the impact on them. And it will definitely, my intentions is definitely to not degrade any value, to put a bunch of whole parking lots out there. I manage my own rentals. I control a lot of what happens, about how many cars and parking and different stuff like that. So I already spoke with the homeowner that lives right across the street named Jason Woodson. And I don't know if he's here tonight, but I visited with him about, instead of doing the cookie cutter style, like you see a lot of developers and builders doing just same thing right after the other. I have no intentions on doing that. My plan is to break them up to where everything will look different amongst the deal, so it will blend with. I mean, I built all those houses. I built every house there. I built another 71. I don't want the homeowners unhappy. I don't want to do anything that will detriment my relationship with them or detriment any of my future development as I'm progressing on. However, this is essentially what I've kind of nest egg, because when I built Oakmont, I kept these duplex kind of nest egging. It's trying to be kind of my retirement as I progress on. So I want to actively be involved with the homeowners and work with that. So I just kind of wanted to let you know, I'll visit with Goldie and them afterwards on that. And so that's kind of where this is all ended up at. So
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other folks to speak on this 6-1 public hearing on the 618? Go ahead, Matt.
Hi, my name's Judy Vanderhoof, and I live at 611 Oakmont between Goldie and Bobby. And I just purchased my house 5 months ago. And when looking at purchasing a house, I looked at areas that were quiet, not on a main busy street, because I used to live across from the duplexes on 600 West Gay Street. I know the police department knows those very well, and now you know why I moved. I was very disappointed when I heard that there may be duplexes going across my street. That's all I have to say. I'm just, I'm disappointed. I was hoping for a nice street, quiet, with no rentals. and I hope we can work this out. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Okay. We had a Don Riffle.
My name is Don Riffle, and I live with my wife, Barbara Erickson, at 613 Oakmont Drive, within the 300-foot of the concerned rezoning area. Approximately 10 years ago, and you've heard part of this from my wife already, she was searching for an area that she could hopefully make her last building, the one that she could retire to. One of the main things that she was looking for was a residential area and to get away from any of the apartments and the different things that are associated with apartments. Barbara built one of the very first homes in Oakmont, or on Oakmont Drive. And as new families built and moved in, she was one of the first ones to go around and meet them and welcome them to the community and to our little section there, and to serve cookies and also to be a friend. Nearly all the property owners that have purchased on Oakmont have done so because of the zoning R1 there. Many of them have children or grandchildren. And they're thinking about the safety of those kids too. And if we have duplexes built directly across, we're going to have more cars. We're going to have more safety problems. I've been in the rental business for 37 and a half years, approximately. And I've come across many of the things that come up during that period. One of the things is more traffic, more people coming and going. Sometimes even this traffic leads to illegal operations, marketing. I also have found, and I'm sure you're aware of this, property owners take more pride in taking care of their own property than they do as a renter. I know that the value of the property does increase when you do have rental property, especially if you're going to sell it, if the value goes up. Also, with duplexes, you're going to have more rental income. So I can see the builder's point of view there. I would just like to petition the council tonight to think of, if you were in our position and you bought and built in that area because it was R1, it was residential, how you would feel if all of a sudden you had R2 come in. So I thank you tonight for listening to our concerns. Thank you again.
Okay, that's all on the list. Are there any other folks that didn't sign in that want to speak on this particular public hearing? Okay. Then I'm going to move on to 6.2, public hearing on ordinance amending section 27-200 of the Code of City Ordinances regarding land use 7.20.
Mayor and City Council, this is a ordinance that staff has drafted that would create the or allow land use land use 7.200 within the light industrial district is zoned by right. Currently, that land use, which is described as nursing homes or institutions, intermediate care institutions, handicapped or infirm institutions, residential care and treatment facilities, facilities for the treatment of substance abuse, is allowed as a conditional use in R3 and R4 districts, and by right in business office, neighborhood business, central business, and general business. And this ordinance would then allow it also by right in the light industrial district. Staff has drafted this in response to a development proposal you're going to hear a lot about this evening. So Compass Health owns the property at 703 North Devasia Road, and it's currently a treatment facility for them with some overnight stays, and that is in an R1 district. It's adjacent to light industrial to the west, that's in the city's industrial park, and then to the east, it's adjacent to commercial storage business that's located out in the county. It's not in the city limits, it's commercial use, and then Highway 50 is to the north. They would like to redevelop their property, and this gets a little bit into your next 3 public hearings, but they would like to redevelop their property to continue using that facility, but also add a separate building and operate a dentist clinic, a dentist office within that separate building. In order to accomplish that, there were several zoning items that would need to happen. And the best path forward that staff could see within our codes was to allow this use, which is the use that they would have there on their campus within the light industrial district, and then annex the property as a portion of it that they own is also out in the county, annex the property, have it established as a light industrial district, and have the existing land that's in the city also rezoned to light industrial. So I think the difference that citizens will see as they drive by is a change by having the additional second building with the dentist office in it. But I'm not sure you'll notice a lot of other changes there to the property. We did have this ordinance is all that's before you at the moment. This was considered at the Planning and Zoning Commission last week, and they recommended in favor of the ordinance and the proposed change. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Anybody in the lobby? Comments? Okay, we'll move on to 6.3, public hearing on amending a portion of the property at 703rd North of Azure Road into the city of Warrensburg.
So this is the same project, and you've got 3 public hearings coming up, 3 separate ordinances on your agenda. The first is the public hearing right now to annex the property that's not in the city limits into the city limits. So Compass Health owns approximately almost 5 acres there. They've got about 4.86 acres, and the eastern quarter of that is what is in the county at the moment. The west side of their land, the western 3/4 is located in the city limits and is currently zoned R1. They would like to annex in the other piece of it. They'd like all of their property, the entire boundary of it, to be within the city limits. That's what this annexation hearing is for. And then the next 2 items on your agenda would be 1, to establish light industrial district on that piece of land if it's annexed, and then 2, to rezone the part that's currently in the city that's R1 into light industrial. With that, then they could move forward. If all of those things happened, then they could move forward with designing the project and ultimately submitting for building permits. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt your, if you still have more to say, please finish and I'll hold my questions when you're done.
I was on the annexation. We did have one comment from the public. They came in requesting general information on November 30th about the project. There was no public comment received at the Planning Commission. Ultimately, the Planning Commission did recommend approval of both rezonings. They did not act on the annexation, as that does not go to that body for recommendation. We let them know as a courtesy, but action is not required by them, but they did recommend in favor of both of the zoning actions.
So what's the advantage for Compass Health for us to annex the additional portion, bring it in?
I think it's easier from a development standpoint to have, when you look at setbacks and lot sizes and designing your parking, to have it all within the city. There can also be fire protection benefits in their insurance because of our ISO rating.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know specifically what's driving their decision, but
Okay.
those could be factors.
And did I understand right? The intention is to change sorry, I guess I'm going back to 6.2. By amending the ordinance to allow medical inside light industrial, that would be everywhere in the,
That would be true in any light industrial district in the city. Yes, you're right.
so I guess, could you explain the rationale on why it would need to be global as far as all of our light industrial, or would there be any concerns of having an industrial facility built next to a health facility later on? Does the question make sense? Because I don't know if I
Yeah, I
quite,
think the question makes sense. I'm not aware of concerns that the city would foresee having a health facility next to an industrial facility.
because if both of them are built by right, we could have a situation where a property owner builds a health facility, and then 10 years later, someone builds, a relatively loud or industrial facility that might not be conducive to health and well-being of seniors. Does that make?
I understand your concern. I guess what I would say is your zoning ordinance. I mean, once it's zoned light industrial, yeah, an industry could always come in. But that's going to be true if it remained R1. You could still have industry come in next to a single family house. A lot of uses are common between there are a lot of commercial uses that are non-industrial uses that are allowed in your light industrial district already. All of your retail uses, all of your office uses, all of those are already allowed in your light industrial district. It's not just manufacturing.
Right, but once we do make it build by right, I mean, already light industrial is built by right, but within light industrial, but that's my only concern is if we start having care facilities constructed in light industrial, is that necessarily the wisest combination of things to put next to each other? Does that make sense?
I understand the concern. I think as staff are not.
Or maybe that's more of a question that ought to be directed at the rest of the council and less.
So my understanding is that they could have had this facility pretty much under any of the other business, general business, all of those, it could have been there by right. However, when you look at the 2017 city plan, you'll see that that entire area was kind of planned to be projected all light industrial. So like all of that light industrial. And so I'm assuming that's why they chose light industrial. So it mirrors the city plan from 2017, because that makes it easier to, it's fitting with the plan of what we intended it to be. And so a minor change in the ordinance will allow us to have that. If they wanted it to protect themselves against something, they could have gone a different direction with it. But I think that this is consistent with what they currently have, or what's on the plan in 2017. Is that right in my assumption, Barb? You think that?
Yes, it is consistent with the comp plan. What I was looking at was, this is one type of care facility, health facility. You have other in their table of uses, such as offices or clinics of physicians or dentists, not more than 10,000 square feet. That's zoned by right and light industrial already.
Okay.
Laboratory and health services zoned by right and light industrial already. So you do have, and I think staff saw it as consistent with those that we already
Okay,
allow.
I see the logic now, because there's already medical uses that are set aside for light industrial. So this would just be shifting an existing,
Be adding one.
but just be transitioning it from, or shifting it from one, or not even transitioning, it'd just be adding it, just an additional, okay. Now I understand a little bit more, I think.
Yeah, if you look at page 30, how it shows all those with the exception of LI, which is like, why could you not do it in LI? That would be the least invasive thing that you could do in LI there, kind of.
Well, when I looked over it, my thought pattern was that maybe they wanted to keep those uses away from light industrial. I didn't realize that hospitals, or there were so many other medical uses that were already in light
Yeah,
industrial.
hospitals is not, as you
No,
can
the
see in
hospital is
that
not,
page
no.
in the packet, hospital is not, but you have other doctors' offices and
Mhm.
things that are.
And I can see your perspective. If they were the first ones there,
Yeah.
what could go next to them? But knowing that everything around them is already developed.
Yeah.
I feel that staying consistent with the city's plan is probably the best way to go here.
And we're wanting to do it as a global, and when I mean global, I mean just like a straight up ordinance change, because we want to avoid spot zoning.
Right, the only other alternative would be is if you did it as a conditional use instead of zone by right.
Mhm.
But staff did not feel that they were,
Like that, it would be,
that would be necessary.
okay, all right. Now I understand. Thank you.
Any other public comment on that? Hearing, okay. So moving on to 6.4, we have an ordinance to establish lighting zoning district for a portion of property located at 703rd north of Azure Road.
Same property, this would be to establish the light industrial district on the part that would be annexed into the city.
Okay.
You have questions on that? Answer those.
Anybody in the lobby? Okay, move on to 6.5. Public hearing on ordinance for zoning a portion of property at 703 north of Azure Road from R1 to L1 district.
This is for the part inside the city limits already.
Questions? Nobody in lobby? Okay. So we'll close the, for this evening, the public hearing, and then go back to Councilman Lund. We delayed the presentation from Sky Haven Airport because we knew you were coming, so.
I appreciate that. My apologies. I was able to watch my daughter perform, but then ducked out. So.
So Benjamin West, if you'd like to come forward and give your presentation, you have 4 of the 5 of us. Councilman Kushner cannot make it tonight.
Mayor, City Council members, Ms. Dillon, thank you for having me tonight. I'm Benjamin West. I'm the new airport manager at the Sky Haven Airport. I wanted to do some other introductions for, I brought some other people to introduce to you tonight, if you give me just a moment. I wanted to introduce Mr. Dan Dietz. If you just stand up and say hi, Dan. Dan is our fueling operations and assistant manager at the airport. Dr. Matthew Peardy. Dr. Peardy is the chair of the UCM aviation program, so he kind of manages all of the aircraft operations and things at the airport for the university. I also have Allie Fields from Chicago. She's with Crawford, Murray, and Tilley Engineering, and she was just visiting with us today. She's the government affairs for that engineering company. And also I brought our airport consultant, Andy Bodine, who's also with CMT, and he's here locally in the Kansas City area. After I speak with you for a few minutes and just give you some details of the airport, I'm going to let Andy come up here and talk to you guys about our master plan that we're going to be starting in the next few weeks. 2012, the Aeronautics Commission in Missouri did an economic impact study that showed that Missouri had 100,000 jobs for aviation airports with a payroll of 3.1 billion and an economic output of 11 billion. And then I wanted to compare that with what our local airport here at Sky Haven is doing. Sky Haven, we have 110 jobs with a $2.2 million payroll and about 11.4 million in economic output for our region. Those numbers are 2012, so they should be a lot more now. There's currently a economic impact study being performed right now for the state. So hopefully in the future, I'll have some updated numbers so we can see how those have changed in the last decade. Our aeronautics here in the state classifies our airport as a regional business airport. And a regional business airport focuses on serving business activity, including small jets, multi-engine general aircraft, with a minimum runway length of 5,000. We currently have a 4,200 length runway. So we're a little short of what we would like to have so that we can attract some different types of aircraft to our facility. Some of the current projects that we are working on, our airport master plan, which I'm going to let Andy Bodine talk to you a little bit more in a few minutes. That's a $500,000 project, and it's going to include a wildlife management study and also an update to our airport layout plan, which is sort of a development plan for the next 10 years for the airport. We're also trying to get funding from the state to do a business plan to go along with our master plan. That'll be a $100,000 plan. I think the state's going to support that. And some great news, we've also got the university to give us some funding and approval for our new airport terminal facility. That facility will be about 10,000 square feet. We received it's about a $5.1 million project. That funding, 2.8 million came from donors. We also received about $1 million from the state 2022 budget, and 1.1 million of that's going to be coming from the university. This new terminal is going to give us more office space for the aviation school. It will also include a conference room, airport manager, administrative offices for our fixed based operations, which they manage our field services at the airport. And also it's going to have a public 24/7 pilot lounge with restrooms, a lobby area, and a rest area for pilots when they need to get out of the weather. So we're really excited about that facility. Hopefully we're going to get some groundbreaking here in the next few weeks. And then, I think we're thinking maybe 16 months before we'll be able to get into that facility. So that's going to be a great addition out to the airport. We just worked with the state for our 5 to 10 year capital improvement project or projects. Some of the projects that we're working on right now for the next 5 years: runway, taxiway, crack sealing, a wildlife security fence, main runway reconstruction and extension, crosswind runway reconstruction, apron expansion, apron areas where we park our aircraft, T hangar and taxi lane development, and hopefully we're going to be able to get some development for some private hangar development at the airport. Update airport lighting to include our apron area hangars and also taxiway lights. We don't currently have taxiway lights. And then these needs are around $30 million. So just to give you an idea of, airports are very expensive, but luckily we're able to solicit federal and state grants. Most of the money that goes into airports comes through when we do get federal and state grants, all that money comes from people who use aviation, the taxes that they pay and buying fuel and things like that. So most of the time, local airports do not get local funding. We get federal and state funding, and all that money comes from the aviation community. How do we live up to the airport's potential as a regional business general aviation airport? So the way we do that is through cooperation from the university with the city of Warrensburg, Johnson County, the county's economic development, local businesses, regional businesses, and the Whiteman Air Force Base. And really today, what I wanted to do is just kind of introduce myself, give you guys my contact information. I've given you guys a packet, which has all sorts of information, not only on our state aeronautics, but also Skyhaven Airport with a lot of the numbers and things that we've talked about tonight. If you have any questions on that, feel free to call me anytime. What I would like to do is get you guys into our master planning process and also into our business plan. I think what we're going to find out is that the airport has potential to be a greater impact for our region. So that's one reason I'm here tonight, is to sell our master plan and get you guys excited about that. And also the business plan part of it, where we would like to encourage you guys and ask you guys to be a part of that with us. And I'm going to let Andy Bodine come and talk to you a little bit about what the master plan looks like, so you have an idea how that works. And then if you guys have any questions, I can address those.
Appreciate it, Benjamin. Mayor, council, appreciate the opportunity to be in front of you all tonight. My name's Andy Bodine. I work with CMT out of Kansas City. We are the airports consultant for the airport. I think there's very few things in the life of an airport that are as important or as impactful as a master plan. It's an opportunity for the airport to set a fresh vision for what the airport looks like from a layout perspective, from a tenant perspective, and from a community perspective. There's something that we say about airports, and that's that they're a front door to the community. That's true of general aviation airports just as much as it is at commercial service airports. It's an opportunity for people to engage in recreational flying, in corporate business aircraft, and all sorts of other opportunities out of the airfield that really kind of serve as an economic engine for the city itself. And so, I think historically the airport has been viewed as a university asset. The university has done a great job in growing the airport, maintaining the airport. And now that there is a master plan kind of at the forefront of the airport's capital improvement program, it's an opportunity to get everyone in the community involved in visioning for what the next, 5, 10, 15 and 20 years looks like. And so I think we're excited about your all's involvement. We're here not asking for or money or anything like that. What we want is your support. I don't think that this is going to be a successful plan if it is only got the university's interests in mind. I think it takes the community's interests at large to be successful for both the university and the community. And so we just appreciate, the opportunity to be here in front of you all tonight. And I'd be happy to answer any questions about the master plan process itself or anything you'd like to ask Benjamin about as well.
Well, I would echo or just state that we are very excited to see some renewed interest at the airport. I do hope that some additional area will be carved up for the community to be able to have aircraft on site. I know that, and I've worked with the aviation program years ago and stuff. And so before any of these hangars were built and was in the master planning process in the 2002, 2003 timeframe.
That's exactly right.
And we were trying to provide some additional T hangars and stuff at the time, hoping to build more. We did not, but at least we got enough to house the university aircraft. The community wants to have space for much more than that. And, currently there are many pilots that feel they've been underserved and from a maintenance standpoint, as well as a services standpoint.
Sure.
And, having a place to park their aircraft, having the FBO being fully functional, maintenance and bathrooms and such would be an excellent addition to our community. And hopefully we can get some more folks flying in. I think having those additional services will allow the university to showcase their program even more by getting the demographic of the local pilots more involved. I think that as a previous fundraiser for the aviation program, I think that is a huge opportunity for the university and the program to do their best to engage the general public who are of the aviation demographic and have means and are willing to participate.
I agree wholeheartedly. I think it's an opportunity to engage everyone to garner additional support and honestly a way to garner additional revenue that is plugged right back into the airport for its users.
I would encourage, I was out with Benjamin Friday, took a quick tour until it started raining and I needed to get home. But that said, it's eye-opening to go out and see and hear his passion and stuff. So,
yeah,
and learn more about it. I was not as aware as others that, it was more than a university asset. So how can we be more involved? So I appreciate y'all coming tonight.
Yeah, and there's an opportunity to continue to grow that. So Benjamin is passionate. I'm equally as passionate about airports, and this won't be the last you guys hear of us. I mean, we would really like to come back and engage you throughout the master plan, not only have your direct involvement, but to present in front of the city, at various points throughout the master plan to kind of give you an update on progress, and then obviously the final findings at the end as well. So,
Well,
again,
Danielle,
appreciate
you're
the
on
opportunity.
you've been invited to participate, correct? So we'll be there.
Good.
So if there's a member of the community that wants to get more information or volunteer to support or be part of the process, if there's space for that, how would they go about that?
So right now we are in the process of developing a stakeholder engagement list. We try and keep that to no more than about 15 individuals. It's good to have diverse participation in that group, business owners. Danielle will be within that group. We'll have university participation. The idea would be to get a great cross-section of participants. And so I would encourage you to work with Benjamin directly on a particular, person of interest that you think would be beneficial for the community and plan as a whole.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else?
Thank you all.
Benjamin, want to wrap it up?
Well, thank you guys so much for having us. I did want to, you'd asked about getting people in contact. They can come, I have an open door policy, so I hope that people will call me, and if people want to come out and visit the airport and learn more about the airport, I'd like to personally invite the city council and Mayor Doolin to come out and take a flight out at the airport. If you guys have time, I would like to, this is an open invitation. Whenever you guys have time, call me and let me know, and I will work to set up a flight so that you guys can see the airport, give you a tour of the airport, and also we can give you a flight above Warrensburg. If you haven't ever done that, you can do that. So I'd like to offer that to you guys. I'm really excited to be here. Really have enjoyed my time in Missouri, and looking forward to working with, the university and the city and the county. But like I said, I have an open door policy. So if anyone needs to contact me, my contact information is not on our website yet, but for you guys, I've given you guys my business card in your packets, but for the local community, they can just reach out to the airport and they can get them a hold of me so that we can engage with the community also. And, I'd like to get the community to spend more time at the airport so I can give those guys tours too. And that's also an open invitation for anyone in the community that would like to come out to the airport. Thank you guys so much for your time tonight.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go back to, these are first reading only ordinances, so that means that no action will be taken tonight. First reading of an ordinance rezoning property at 618 West Clark Street from R1 to R2. Anything else, Barb? 7.2, first reading of an ordinance amending section 27-200 of the city code of ordinances regarding land use 7.20. Anyone else? Okay. 7.3, first reading of an ordinance annexing a portion of the property at 703 North Devasher Road into the city of Warrensburg. 7.4, first reading of an ordinance to establish an L1 zoning district for a portion of the property located at 703 North Devasher Road. And then 7.5, first reading of an ordinance rezoning a portion of the property at 703 North Devasher Road from R1 to L1 district. Okay. So moving on to 8.
Sorry, my brain was processing something, sorry.
Yeah. 8, second reading of an ordinance. So this will be a second reading of an ordinance establishing sewer base rate changes effective January 1st, 2022, presented by Danielle because Marcella is out tonight.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and City Council. This is an ordinance establishing our sewer base rates effective January 1 of 2022. The base rates for both commercial and residential remain the same. However, we did increase the 100 per 100 cubic feet rates for both residential and for commercial this year based on the recommendation of our consultant HDR. We did a public hearing on this in September of 2021. So we'll stand for any further questions.
And a motion.
I'll move to approve said ordinance. Or, yeah.
Brooks,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg,
Yes. Okay, item 9, we have a first and a second reading of ordinance. Second reading of ordinance authorizing the city clerk, city manager to execute a financial lease contract with Motorola for radio equipment presented by Chief Lockhart.
Mr. Mayor, members of the city council, we're before you tonight to ask you to approve through first and second reading due to a purchasing deadline, this finance lease contract. The Warrensburg Police and Fire Departments began evaluating transitioning their radio systems to a system called MOSWIN. It's the Missouri Statewide Interoperability System. It's a radio system that's supported by the state of Missouri and provides the ability to be able to communicate statewide with any agency that's on the system.
Yes.
Oh, okay. The state of Missouri toolkit indicates that the purchase of MOSWIN radios, which is attached in your packet, is a qualifying purchase under the American Rescue Plan Act funds. Additionally, the fact sheet from the White House, which is also attached, indicates that ARPA funds may be used when a community has an increase in crime. Unfortunately, in Warrensburg, we had a 300% increase in homicides and a 44% increase in gun crimes in 2020. ARPA funds may also be used to provide a response to a pandemic. So last year, when we shut down City Hall, we also dispersed our police officers throughout the community. We gave them a police car to take home, and they took reports over the phone, but they still need to be able to communicate with a dispatcher and with other officers as well. So having a reliable way to communicate when they are working away from the station would be addressed with these new radios. Total cost for the equipment is $1.284 million, 496, well, 1.284,496.14. Agreement is outlined as a lease purchase with a payment due 1 year from the date of agreement. The agreement is executed. The lease includes radios for police and fire. Fire is still evaluating whether or not they want to transition at this point. If they decide to transition, then there is no additional cost. If they decide they don't want to transition, there is no penalty for them to make that decision and not transition. There is a no interest lease that's part of this. What happened was the lease was bought down as part of the cost of the equipment. One of the issues is our current radio system and equipment are nearing end of life. Some would say that they're past the end of life. One of our repeaters, which is the backbone of the system, is more than 20 years old. We recently had an issue where, well, actually, since I've gotten here 5.5 years ago, radios have been a big problem. We don't get good coverage throughout the city, and it's an old system, and we really had a hard time figuring it out. So Assistant Chief Munsterman brought the consultant down that Johnson County Central Dispatch uses. They evaluated the equipment. What we found out was this repeater, this 20-year-old repeater, was putting out 5 watts, and it's supposed to be putting out 50 watts. So it was underperforming. So they don't make parts for it anymore. So they had to go back and try and find some parts and cobbled it all together. They were able to get it up to about 40 watts, and it's improved, but it's still not where it needs to be. The city of Raleigh used ARPA funds to upgrade their radio system to Moswin for very similar reasons. We recently conducted a test and evaluation of the equipment and the proposal, and the difference in coverage was significant. And all we had was the radio and a repeater in the car. And we had noticed significant improvement. In fact, so much so that one of the officers who tried it, this is one of my tactical officers who loves guns. We've been talking about transitioning to a different gun. He said, "Chief, I'll give up the guns for the radios." The difference is the guns are about $4,000, the radios are 1.2. So he didn't understand the scope of that, but I tell you that to tell you how important good radios are to the officers and how much of a difference this made to him. The equipment is being has been bid by the state of Missouri. We're purchasing it from their bid, so we receive significant discounts for trade-ins for that as well. Denise Gibbs from Motorola is on Zoom if you have any radio questions for her. And Brian Harper, who's with En Route, the vendor we'll be working with, is also on as well. We are recommending approval of the ordinance. We're going to move forward with the police radios, provide additional time for fire to evaluate to determine if it'll meet their needs. The agreement is in there. The letter notes that it was still in development or legal review, but it has been completed. It is in your packet. I also want to add that none of this would have happened if it weren't for the work of Assistant Chief Munsterman. He put this together for police and fire and public works. And Denise's fingers, I know, are sore because Andy kept going back to her and telling her, "Sharpen your pencil, sharpen your pencil." This thing was, I mean, I don't know how much more it was than what we ended up with, but it was significant. The last straw was the no interest lease thing and not having to pay for it for a year. So Andy, if you ever need him to negotiate a car for you or anything, he's available for that. Denise probably will be glad that her fingers will heal from having to use such a small pencil. We would recommend approval at this time, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
And I see we've already reached out to the county and neighboring partners to make sure everything is compatible, and we anticipate that will continue in the future. This is kind of the new standard.
Yeah, so the sheriff's already purchased these radios, and what we have to do to interface with dispatch is something called a consolette. The consolette plugs into their console. It doesn't require any additional training or any additional equipment on their part, and it will be seamless for them to communicate with us through this system.
Okay. Would it still be compatible with fire if they don't?
Yes.
Change.
So we can still, it'll just require a switch of the channel. So
Okay.
think of most when like a station on your radio.
Yeah.
We're gonna be tuned into that one. They can't hear us when we're on that one, but we can just tune to another station and listen to them and talk to them back and forth.
I know that we have a mutual support agreement with Whiteman Air Force Base,
Mhm.
and this is a Missouri program. Will there be a possibility of any overlap with like their systems at all, or?
I am not aware of our interfacing with any of their radio systems. If we go out there, we usually have somebody assigned to us that's our liaison officer that we communicate through.
Do we have that ability now, or to communicate through radio, or is their system already like
Not
completely
that-
encrypted and like?
Not with
you-
Whiteman that I'm aware of.
All right,
I don't think so. Are you aware of that? No.
We always assign a portable or.
okay.
Yeah, we'll swap radios is what we do.
So it wouldn't be a loss of, it would basically be just situation normal with them
Yes.
as it currently is. You
But
just
what
have
will
to-
be different is I can sit here in this council chamber and I can talk to somebody in St. Louis on a portable radio. And that's the benefit of the statewide system. The other benefit for us is there's no maintenance cost. We buy our equipment, the hardware, the repeaters, the radios, but as far as the antennas, the expensive stuff, the state takes care of that. They showed us a coverage map in Warrensburg, and when they laid that coverage map over the one that we have right now, it was significantly improved. I mean, night and day difference. I'll give you another example. In the middle of the high school, Andy put a repeater in. It was some leftover equipment that dispatch had. This was before I got here. And we have never been able to get out from the library in the high school. We found out why when we recently had the equipment servicer here. It's a one-way repeater. So it sends out, but it doesn't receive. So the officer can get out, but he can't hear if help's coming. He can't hear if anybody's in the building, nothing like that. When we took now we've got an in-building coverage system that we're talking to the school about, but when we took the car out there with the repeater in the car and the portable radio, we could get out from the library. We've never been able to do that. We've had similar results over at the hospital. It's another building you can't get out of. The beauty of this system is each car has a repeater. So if you have multiple cars there, the system prioritizes the repeater that's strongest for the radio. So at the hospital, if we have a car in front and you're closer to the front, your traffic's going to hit that repeater and go to dispatch. If you're on the backside, you're going to hit and there's a car on the backside, it'll hit that repeater and send your traffic out. Again, we're going to be working with them for the in-building coverage issue that they also manufacture. But even just the repeater in the car is going to give us the ability to communicate in some of our most difficult buildings here.
A question?
So move to pass that ordinance to second reading by title.
Brooks,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg,
Yes.
Thank you. They will very much appreciate that. And I also want to thank Danielle. She really,
hold on, we got,
oh, sorry. Thanks, Matt. Thank you.
I just had to grab it.
Got my vote, so.
All right. This is for adoption or rejection and, yep, I am. An ordinance authorizing the city manager and city clerk to execute a finance lease contract with Motorola for radio equipment. For adoption or rejection, Brooks,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg,
Yes.
Thank
Now you can
Thank you. I also want to thank Danielle because she was very patient with Andy and I, who every time we saw her, when we ran into a roadblock, we're like, okay, can we do this? She's like, yeah, if you can do this. Okay, we did that. Now what else do we need to do? And she just was very patient with us, worked through it. So the two of them really made this happen. So thank you very much. The officers really appreciate that.
Well, thank you. I'll be candid with you. It actually came up in the community from our CARES conversation. So it's kind of good. So appreciate it. All right. Item number 10, other business, a resolution to accept the state Homeland Security Counterterrorism Officer Equipment Grant. Chief, this is you again, it looks like.
Yes, it is. So this is a program through the state of Missouri. One of our officers, Brandon Hargrave, is assigned to the Counterterrorism Officer program. It doesn't mean he has to leave here. He still works here, but they meet virtually. They share intelligence information. And part of being in that group provides once a year for us to apply for a grant. We applied for and were awarded a grant for just under $5,000. We're going to be using that to purchase 5 ComTac headsets for our tactical team. It'll be a much improved communication device for them. We, again, Major Munsterman completed the grant application. We, like everything else, we kind of get it at the last minute. And so Andy, I think, was at the 12th hour finishing this grant up and getting it in. And so we got that award. So it'll be great to improve our ability to operate in tactical situations. And we want to thank the state for this opportunity for one of our officers. We actually have 2 officers in the program now. And so we've got 2 full-time officers getting statewide intelligence about counterterrorism things to try and keep our community safe. No match required. There's no fiscal impact, and we would recommend approval.
Do we need to move this to second reading by title or?
Move it
This
first.
is just a resolution.
Okay, just runs, okay.
Move to approve.
Brooks,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg,
Yes. Okay, item 10.2, a resolution amending the downtown facade grant to grant program relating to large scale projects. Barb, you're back.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At your September meeting, this body revised the program guidelines for the downtown facade grant. And one of the things that you did was create 2 different buckets of money within that grant, one for small scale projects up to $1,000. And those, we take those applications on a rolling basis throughout the year. The other, and they're awarded on a first come, first served basis. The other was to create a large scale project for projects between $1,000 and $5,000. And because we think we'll only have the ability to grant 1 or 2 of those, we wanted to make that fair and have an application window instead of have that be on a first come, first served basis. And so that application window was set to start October 1st through November 1st. And we did not receive any applications within that window of time. The committee does still think that there are some projects that are interested in applying for that. It was a matter of getting all those pieces together within that window of time. We took that action on September 13th. And prior to that date, grants had been limited to $1,000. So that was a big change. And we think they just didn't have time to get everything together. So we would like to ask to reopen that application window and extend that through the end of February 28th, so that we would have time to receive applications. We would make the award following the 28th, and then they would have until August 15th to complete the work. We would ask for approval of the attached resolution extending that window of time to February 28th. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Move to approve?
Brooks,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg,
Yes. Okay, item 10.3, resolution is Council of the City of Warrensburg accepting a proposal for Mike Keith Insurance for property liability and cyber insurance for 2022. Greg?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. It is the season not only of Christmas, but it is the time of year where the city's property liability and cyber insurance policies are set to expire. And therefore, we come to you tonight with the quote that was put together by Mike Keith Insurance for us. And it does show this year a total increase in premium of 2.20%, or an equivalent of $7,859 for all premiums. There was a breakdown given to you in your packet to summarize this, but I'll go through this real quickly. There was a $12,132 decrease for general liability, an $8 increase in employee benefits liability, a $1,333 increase in public official liability, a $9,677 increase in law enforcement liability, an $8,455 increase in property, a $1,012 increase in inland marine, a $3,372 decrease in auto, a $108 increase in the optional terrorism, a $1,169 decrease for endorsements, and a total of $2,885 decrease in the fire pack. is a separate policy that ensures all of our equipment for the fire department. And then there was a $7,040 increase in excess cyber liability. Under our casualty policy, we do have an underlying $100,000 limit for cyber liability. And so this is the excess cyber liability is $1 million policy. So what we would be doing here is continuing the city's property liability and cyber insurance coverage for 22 to 23. Again, the total overall fiscal impact, when you add those things together, the property and liability renewal quote is $315,077. The fire pack, $36,413. The cyber insurance renewal quote for a total of $12,540 for a total insurance of $364,030. This number is a little bit higher than the FY21 budget amount, which was $356,003. I do believe that Mike Heath is on the line tonight. The staff does recommend approval of this resolution as submitted, and either Mike or I would be willing to answer any of your questions at this time.
Questions?
Move to approve the resolution as presented.
Brooks,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg.
Yes. Okay, on to item number 11, appearances of council not listed on the agenda. Does anybody else came in or signed in? Okay. Item 12, miscellaneous matters from the mayor and or city council. Do want to thank our chief who's moving on for service to the community and extraordinary in not just the city staff, but in community organizations, et cetera. So thank you. Director of Finance report. You got anything, Danielle, to
I
add?
do not have anything to add.
Okay. City managers report.
I graduated from Leadership Missouri last week. I'm very thankful for that opportunity. Thank council and thank staff for allowing me to be out of the office for 3 days, a month, for 7 months. It was a lot, but it was very worth it. And just the networking and the ability to learn more about our state of Missouri and how Warrensburg plays into the overall economy and success of our state. So thank you for that opportunity.
Okay.
I am glad to be back in the office.
All right. We have on the agenda closed sessions. May I read that, please?
I'll read it. Vote to close part of this meeting pursuant to section 610.021 of the revised statutes of Missouri relating to 2, leasing, purchase, or sale of real estate where public knowledge might adversely affect the amount paid in the transaction. 3, hiring, firing, disciplining, or promoting a particular employees by a public governmental body when personal information about the employee is discussed or recorded. And 13, individually identifiable personnel records, performance ratings, or records pertaining to employees or applicants for employment.
All right. Brooks,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg.
Yes. Okay, with that, we are adjourned.